Hello and welcome to my session on how to spend all your money and still get hacked. Now, we all know there are thousands of security vendors selling software, selling solutions, selling systems on protecting from hackers, selling intrusion prevention systems, SIEM solutions, antivirus solutions, anti-malware solutions, all kinds of appliances and magical boxes. I like to call them snake oil because they rarely deliver on what they promise. I've seen companies spending $1 million a year on specific solutions sold by a single vendor, which fail after a year and there's no refund. Now, this session is going to debunk some myths on the usefulness of such expensive products and solutions, and we are going to talk about some things that we can do to protect ourselves and to protect our organizations without spending all our money and still getting hacked. The approach that I'm going to talk about is avoiding buying everything, buying all the tools that you want, and hoping that the tools you bought will protect you, because that's not how it works. A few words about me. My name's Alexander Sverdlov, as you can see. I've spoken at the largest security conferences in Russia 3 times in a row, and then at the CISO conferences again in Moscow 2 times in a row. I wrote 2 cybersecurity books. I worked at the largest companies in the world in their security teams, and I've been an external security consultant to the United Arab Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation. I've also been an investigator and part of the incident response team in one of the telecoms in the United Arab Emirates, and now I run my own company, which has clients all over the world. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, but I don't tweet that much. I spend more time on LinkedIn. This painting, I commissioned it with an abstract artist a few years ago. And I asked the artist to describe the perfect network, the perfect security defense for a network. And we worked with that artist for a long time before this painting was at the standard that I wanted it to be at. Now, as you can see, the large cubes I wanted to represent servers, and the small cubes I wanted to represent endpoints, be it smartphones, desktop, laptops, whatever. In the perfect defense, there is no perimeter defense. And I wrote about it in my book in 2016 or 15, I forgot now. And at the time, the zero trust security concept was just starting up. And the zero trust security concept puts the focus of your defenses not on your perimeter defenses, which are imaginary from a hacker's point of view, but at your endpoints, because that's where most breaches occur. That's where the initial point of entry usually occurs. And if your initial point of entry in a breach happens at an endpoint, how did the firewall function at the time? It was obviously very easily bypassed. And in a perfectly protected network, although there is no perfect security, but there is optimal security. So let's say in an optimally protected network, those brown cubes that you see on the screen are the infected machines, the infected endpoints. And the infected endpoints get isolated, no longer connected to anything in the network. And the rest of the network can operate just as before, while the incident responders can perform all the actions needed on those compromised machines. When you ask your executives for a budget for security solutions, that's how your executives look at you. That's how they see you. It might not be how you see yourself. You might see yourself as a knight in shining armor, but that's how your executives look at you when you start asking for money to buy security solutions. And that's how your reasons usually look like. But you certainly feel like, yeah, we are going to buy this solution and it's going to make us secure. Unfortunately, that's not the case because all those keywords that you see are imaginary from the hacker's point of view. An antivirus can be bypassed incredibly easily. There are malware as a service, underground criminal services where a malware author can sign up and they can get a new piece of malware, new encoded version every day, which is guaranteed by the SLA of the criminal service to be not detectable by the antivirus solutions on this day. Every day they get a new version, and as a result, we can scratch antivirus out of the screen, out of this picture. The SIEM solution, security monitoring solution that you have and that you plan to buy maybe, or most likely you already have it. The problem with that is people buy it before they take care of their logs. And I'll give you an example. A server, let's say a domain controller, for example, generates hundreds, if not more, megabytes of log data per day in a busy organization. How many of those events are actually useful to you? What if, and that's usually how it is, what if 70% of those log events are meaningless in a security investigation? For example, in some security misconfigurations, every single packet arriving at the firewall of the machine gets logged. And this is meaningless information because you cannot investigate such a log. It's very difficult. The useful events are the ones which deliver value. Have you optimized your logs at the sources of the logs before you start shipping them to the SIEM solution? Because it might turn out that you're shipping a lot of garbage, and when an investigation has to happen, you have filled your log storage with garbage and you've missed the important events due to that. The same applies to intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, DLP systems. There are a lot of research articles saying that DLP solutions are mostly useful for political reasons, not for practical reasons. For a DLP solution to become useful in a practical situation, it has to be configured properly. And that configuration takes a team of experts over a long period of time. At one of my clients, whom I am unable to mention, they sat me down, they purchased the most expensive DLP solution on the global market. And they asked me, Alex, can you bypass this? And within a few hours, I was able to generate 20 bypasses for this DLP system. They were shocked because some of the bypasses I came up with, and again, I came up with those bypasses. They weren't Googled by me. I didn't research them on the internet. Were not solvable by the DLP vendor. Many security experts, many hackers know how to bypass DLP, and many advanced users as well. So all of these security solutions that you see on the screen, are effective only after a lot of work. They're not effective by default. And when you combine all of them, because you can't just go with an antivirus, you need a monitoring solution, you need an intrusion prevention solution, you need anti-spam. Of course, you need all of those. When you combine them, it turns out that you need to spend maybe $100 per user per month or more, which for a few thousand users comes up to a significant amount of money per month. Unfortunately, your cybersecurity budget usually ends up like this. And you can't afford to buy anything and everything that you like and everything that gets advertised to you by security vendors. You can only afford the bare minimum, usually. And when you can afford only the bare minimum, you have to learn to defend yourself before you learn to configure all these solutions. And that's what this session is about. Because as you can see on this screen, all the brands, all the companies on this screen were hacked at some point in time. There is a chance that your company was hacked without you knowing, but if those big brands were hacked and they had a security team, and their security team most likely was hundreds of times larger than your security team, or dozens of times larger, dozens of times more well funded, then what's your chance? I believe that the companies that you see and the companies who have suffered a breach did something wrong in the basics. And as you can see in the Equifax data breach timeline, the vulnerability in the product which was exposed in February 2017 was known months before it got exploited. The patch was released in March, and only in the middle of May did the breach happen. What does that mean? That means that Equifax had a very big problem in their security operations. If they had vulnerable systems for months, and a vulnerability which was obviously critical in order to be exploited remotely. And patching is a function which is the most basic function in a security maturity of the organization. They might have had all the products that I mentioned earlier. They surely had a DLP, they surely had a next-gen firewall, they surely had a SIEM solution, but the basics, they missed the basics. They spent all their money, all their security budget on all kinds of solutions. Like, all right, this year we have $500,000 or 2 million euro for security. Let's spend it. And they invite all kinds of vendors. They spend all their money on security and they still get hacked. Why? Because they didn't take care of the basics. Now, what are the basics? And I believe you need to learn to do before you start buying. You need to learn doing patching before you start buying security solutions. And please, if there's one thing you need to remember out of this whole talk, fix your patching processes and speed them up. Come up with a DevOps practice, DevSecOps practice, where you have continuous patching process rather than patching once a month or 2 times a month at a specified day. Have continuous patching. Struggle and spend efforts on being able to patch very quickly after a patch is released. And also, I would advise you to look at ways to mitigate vulnerabilities before a patch is released. As soon as the vulnerability gets known. Now, I believe, and not just me, a lot of security experts believe that you should take care of the basics first. And the basics are the basic cyber hygiene. Now, the CMMC, which is a US model of maturity levels, mentions some keywords here which are vague. They're vague. What is basic cyber hygiene? What is intermediate cyber hygiene? It's all, it sounds well, it sounds sellable, but how do you do basic cyber hygiene? Fortunately, the CMMC has Excel spreadsheets where all of this is described. They have very good PDF documents where all of this is described in detail. And the first level, the basic cyber hygiene, has just 17 practices, and it's incredibly easy to achieve. Now, incredibly easy is difficult for some organizations, and it's easy for others, but in the grand scheme of things, it's incredibly easy. Now, this picture here is a little bit more descriptive. I believe that device hardening should be your first priority, like hardening your office package, office suite, hardening your browsers, hardening your third-party applications, then hardening the operating system, your network devices, and then hardening your servers. And after you do the hardening, then you start thinking about buying an antivirus, because as I described, antivirus solutions are incredibly easy to bypass and incredibly easy to just ignore by hackers. Only then you move on to configuring network defenses and perimeter defenses. As I described, perimeter defenses are very ineffective in breaches. All of those companies here, they had a perimeter defense, they had a firewall, and obviously it didn't work out for them well. So why should you focus on that? Yeah, it's part of the basics. You should have it, but it's not going to save you in a cyber attack. So what's going to save you if you struggle to achieve cybersecurity mastery? And cybersecurity mastery is achieved by practice and learning. Level 1 of the CMMC maturity model describes physical access operations and maintenance, documentation, and system access protection. And the most important elements here are in the operations and maintenance section. And it's about how well you manage your logs, how well you manage your system hardening. And the last item that you should take care of, although you should definitely take care of it, is documentation and knowledge sharing. If you don't document your processes, if you don't have a procedure or a checklist for installing each workstation, each server, each third-party application, if you don't have the security checklist, the security hardening checklist, then you're going to miss things. And those missed items are likely to be used in a breach later on. The US Department of Defense has come up with a security technical implementation guides, which are called STIGs in short. And as you can see on the screen, they have come up with STIGs for almost every piece of software that is used in today's organizations. Just go and check them out and start applying them in your infrastructure. That's how you avoid spending money and still getting hacked. Because if you do this first and you spend money second, then you have a chance at surviving a breach. And there are GPOs that you can apply directly at the Active Directory level of whatever organizational unit you're applying them on. And you can test this quite easily with test machines and see what breaks or doesn't, change the settings appropriately. But this is a fast and efficient way to harden your network. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about before my time runs out is password management. Because password management, credential management, and access management is critical. I've seen companies, software development companies, developing core banking applications where the software development company developing the core banking application stores all access passwords for developers, QA, and others in clear text where everyone can see them. And there is no track of who has used the password for what. And then they develop this system, ship it to all kinds of banks, and the banks run a pen test, everything, but they forget the fact that someone might already have all the service passwords for everything by hacking into this software development organization. So in your organization, are you using password managers? Because if we go back to this slide of security solutions, if you're not managing passwords and access properly, all of these solutions will fail. You can spend millions of dollars per year and you will still fail if you don't harden your systems and if you don't manage your credentials well. If your users are creating passwords such as password 123 with with a @ sign instead of the A and a $ instead of the S and a capital letter for P, which is what most users do, then a breach is either already there or it's about to happen in your organization. If your users don't generate their passwords randomly in a password manager, generating random strings, they are creating easy to guess passwords. As easy as that. And if you don't do this simple practice, and this simple practice of hardening your systems and managing access, you're going to get hacked very, very, very easily. Now, everything that I talked about, the system hardening, credential management, maturity levels for the various maturity levels, you can achieve probably 80% of those without spending a single dollar on a commercial solution. You can do that. You can harden your systems for free. You can enable proper credential management for free because KeePass, as on the screen, is free. And not a single dollar was spent on any products in any of my suggestions today. And I would like to leave you with this slide, which is saying, keep it simple, stupid, right? Keep calm and kiss. So keep it simple. Focus on the basics and start buying solutions at least when you reach the first level of maturity in the CMMC maturity model.